Now, Eastside Community Media presents the 2019 Candidate Forums. Race for City of East Peoria Commissioner.
Welcome to Eastside Community Media's Candidate Forum for the East Peoria City Commissioner's race. This election will be held on April 2nd, 2019. This forum, along with our mayoral election forum, the candidate forums held by the East Peoria Chamber of Commerce on March 1st, and the Fond du Lac District Library City Forum held on March 13th, will be available for viewing on Eastside Community Media, Comcast Channel 22, i3 Broadband Channel 12, and on our Facebook page and website. A few details about this forum before we begin. All 7 candidates for City Commissioner were invited to our studio to record answers to 6 questions that were provided in advance. Candidates drew numbers to determine the order at which the candidates would appear. With each new questions, we will cycle through the candidates, giving each the opportunity to answer first. Candidates were given 2 minutes to give introductions, 3 minutes to answer each question, and 2 minutes for closing comments. 2 candidates for City Commissioner, Michael Sutherland and Ruscio Matthews, were unable to participate due to scheduling conflicts. Before we begin, I want to thank you for taking the time to learn more about the candidates running in this local election. We feel an informed public can make an informed decision at the polls. Now we will open with candidate introductions, starting with Stephen Matheny.
Hello, my name is Steve Matheny. When I came to the area in 1992, the Chamber Director, Dick Dotson, had a license plate that read, "Choose EP." Well, that's exactly what I did. This city is a great city, and I chose to raise my kids and family here. I have been on the high school board for 14 years and also serve on several other boards in the community like TCRC. I have been a volunteer coach for various sports and for over 20 years drove a float in the Festival Lights Parade. I love East Peoria and hope you will vote for me on April 2nd.
Hi, my name is Norm Sales. I'm running for City Council. I'm a lifelong resident of East Peoria. I grew up here in East Peoria, one of 7. I've been on Springfield Road for the last, well actually since 1973. I have been married to my wife for 34 years. We have 1 child and he lives here in East Peoria and we're quite proud of East Peoria. I'm a private pilot. I'm an avid golfer at our wonderful golf course, Quail Meadows. I'd like to think I improved last year, but that may be just my imagination. I'm currently retired. I worked for DHL Express, was my last employer, for 22 years, managing all of downstate Illinois.
Hi, I'm Mark Hill. I'm born and raised in East Peoria. My wife, Jennifer, of 31 years, is also an East Peoria native, and we've also raised our 4 children here in East Peoria. For the last 22 years, we've lived in the Fond du Lac Heights area. I've committed myself to serving others in the community. In that capacity, I've served as a Cub Master, in which I led 10 adults to lead 40-plus children who will be our next citizens of East Peoria. Also, I've been a volunteer for the East Peoria Zoning Board of Appeals for the last 19 years. I've also been a part of Lambda Chi Alpha Fraternity Alumni Board and currently serving as the president. I know I am ready to serve the citizens of East Peoria.
It feels like just yesterday that I was standing here 12 years ago, and time has flown since then. I've enjoyed every second I've had on the City Council. My name is Dan Decker, and I appreciate the responsibility that the people of East Peoria have put in me to be an elected official. As far as this forum, I appreciate this forum and Eastside Community Television for putting it on. There aren't a lot of forums that allow us to get the word out and allow the voters to see who we are and how we feel about all of the topics that are in front of us for the next 4 years. I'm a graduate of East Peoria Community High School, 1991, and I've stayed in the city of East Peoria all my life. As far as my employment is concerned, I've always worked in emergency services, whether it's been a paramedic, a firefighter. It's something that I I decided I wanted to go into, and I've really enjoyed it. I worked a little bit for the Pekin Fire Department, but for the most part, I've spent 21 years on the East Peoria Fire Department, something I'm very proud of. I've seen a lot of good things. I've seen some bad, but I wouldn't give that up for anything. I've loved the experiences that I've had in the community, and I've loved being able to help people. Besides that, I've taught EMS classes, EMT classes at ICC and for the high school. I've taught CPR throughout the community. I've really enjoyed those experiences as well. Most of all, I have a wonderful family. My wife, Christy, we've been married for 21 years, and we couldn't be happier. We have 3 wonderful children, Zach, who's 18, Caitlin, who's 16, and Troy, who's 13. My dad also was a firefighter in the community. My mom worked in the school districts, and we've always been a part of the city of East Peoria, and that's what I'm so happy about, being able to be a commissioner.
I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Seth Mingus. I'm running for City Council in the city of East Peoria. I'd like to start by thanking the Channel 22 crew and Channel 22 for the opportunity to answer some questions regarding the race. I'd like to first start by introducing myself by letting you know that I've been a citizen of East Peoria and a lifelong resident of East Peoria. I attended District 86 schools, District 309 schools, attended ICC in East Peoria. Personally, I've been married to my wife Patricia for the past 14 years. We have 3 children, Julia, who's 11, Jolie, who's 9, and Lincoln, who's 4. Professionally, I've been an educator for the past 16 years. I started my career in East Peoria where I taught junior high social studies, literature. I was the athletic director, and I coached a variety of sports at Central Junior High. From there, I went on to Pekin High School, where I was the dean of students and assistant principal. And from Pekin, I went to South Pekin Grade School, where I earned my current position. I'm the principal and superintendent there. Politically, I've served on elected boards for the citizens of East Peoria for the past 17 years. I started on the Fond du Lac Library Board, then I went to the Fond du Lac Township, where I was a trustee for 6 years, and I've been on the county board for the past 5 years. I also serve on the East Peoria Youth Basketball Board. Educationally, I went to ICC for 2 years. I went to Illinois State University, where I earned my bachelor's degree in history education, and Bradley University, where I earned my master's degree in educational administration. And I also went to Western Illinois University, where I earned my educational specialist degree.
Question number 1. What do you feel qualifies you to represent the citizens of East Peoria as City Commissioner?
I feel that I'm qualified to represent the citizens of East Peoria as a commissioner due to my 37 years of business experience. The last 3 years of my DHL employment, which was my last employer before I retired, I traveled all over the country teaching a Certified International Specialist class for East Peoria. In addition to traveling all over the U.S., I got to travel to 5 different countries, that being England, Germany, China, Dubai, and Bahrain, teaching that same class. I'm a level-headed person. I use good business sense, and I attack problems with good judgment, and I'm certainly willing to compromise with other members of the council and will respectfully take their point of view in consideration.
I feel what qualifies me is to be a city commissioner is my experience and my education. I'm proud to say I graduated from East Peoria Community High School. I went on to get a Bachelor's of Science with a double major in Computer Science and Business Administration from Eureka College. And then as a working professional and father of 4, I later went back to school and got an MBA from the University of Illinois. As far as my professional career, first half of my career I was an information technology consultant, and I performed created solutions for companies, Fortune 500 companies, creating solutions to whatever their biggest needs and problems were. The latter half of my career, I have been in various roles with Caterpillar. Over the last 19 years, I am a certified project management professional. And in that, I've led teams. I've had projects that range in the cost of tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands to portfolios in the millions. I've led teams, I've developed teams, and I've worked with teams to achieve results. I've been experienced there. I've had planning experience, capital expenditure experience, as well as budgeting experience. I'm trained and experienced in process improvement. I'm also experienced in risk management. And I believe all these skills will be greatly used in addressing some immediate needs in the city of East Peoria.
I think the biggest thing that qualifies me for being on the City Council is, first of all, the experience that I've had. As I mentioned before, I've been on the council for 12 years now. I've seen a lot of things go on in that 12 years. We've had some great growth throughout the community. There, as you know, we have the levy district, and there's a lot of new development that's come our way. I have always been an advocate for streets. It's not something that's just a campaign topic for me. It's something that I have always argued for and talked about, a need to put more money into streets. Cleanup Week is something that was important to me. 12 years ago, I mentioned that in my campaign. It upset me that the council stopped that practice, and I was happy that as soon as I was elected, we worked on getting that back for the residents. And the reason is because I got to know the people of East Peoria. That's what they wanted, and they want things like that to continue in East Peoria. So it is important to me as well. I have a unique perspective as a firefighter. I see parts of the community that most people don't see. I see the wealthy, I see the poor, I see the homeless population. That unique perspective, I think, qualifies me to a degree that others can't match. Other people have experiences that I don't, but for that, I don't think anybody else can have the same experiences that I have. I think the most important thing that qualifies me to be on the City Council is me being a married father, my kids growing up in East Peoria, and being involved in all aspects of the community. My kids have been involved in baseball. We've gone to East Side, and we've really enjoyed this community, taken advantage of our park system. With that, I've seen how important it is to have a community that our kids are going to want to return to when they get older. I have a strong desire to secure the safety of our community and the quality of life for our residents, because I want to make sure that not only my kids grow up here, but I want to make sure my grandkids grow up here as well. I plan on staying in the community of East Peoria, and I hope that my kids and grandkids stay as close to me as possible. So, as far as what qualifies me, it's my life experience, the amount of time that I've spent in East Peoria, and just a strong desire to make sure that East Peoria stays the place that our future generation will want to come and live.
I feel that both my professional and political experiences qualify me to represent the citizens of East Peoria as a city commissioner. Professionally, I've been a school administrator for the past 9 years. While serving as a school administrator, I've had the opportunity to work on budgets. I've had the opportunity to create levies. I've had the opportunity to work in HR. I've had the opportunity to work with the community on a daily basis and work with the people that make up a community and the people who make up a government entity. Politically, I've served on elected boards for the past 17 years. I've served on the library board, representing the citizens of East Peoria. I represented the citizens of Fond du Lac Township, which is a section of East Peoria, for 6 years as Fond du Lac Township trustee. And for the past 5 years, I've served on the Tazewell County Board. I feel that being a part of these boards has not only taught me how to interact with the administration of whatever entity I've been on the board of, but it's also taught me how to interact with the community, how to listen to their needs, how to respond to their needs, and how to take that to the people who need to know.
My whole life experience has prepared me to serve as a commissioner for the East Peoria Council. In my profession, I was asked to research and to come up with the best solutions for a customer. My experience on District 309 board has taught me how to get a consensus with other board members, as well as how to understand finances in the public arena. I try to get all the facts and opinions for consideration in the decisions I make as a board member, and I understand my role is to oversee, not manage, on a day-to-day basis, which is what the staff is hired to accomplish.
Question number 2. What is your primary purpose in running for the City Council?
My main purpose for running for the City Commissioner is one thing, and that's to make East Peoria better, period. And all the organizations that I've been a part of, my mantra is leave it a little better than I found it. And East Peoria, our city is at a crossroads at this point in time. We've done a lot of development, commercial development, and at this point we've neglected some things, and those being basic services. Our debt level is high levels. Over the next 10 years, we've got through 2038, we have a debt level of $111 million, and those contribute to some of what's wrong with our city at this point. But I believe that my sole purpose is to make East Peoria a little better.
I've always wanted to be on the City Council. That might seem strange to some, but for me, it's just something I've always wanted to do. And it started with my dad. My dad was a firefighter for the city of East Peoria, and being with him took me around people that were a part of our community, mayor, city commissioners, and others. It was always interesting to me. And that became more interesting when in 5th grade, Mr. Fogelmark had been my principal for years. Well, he'd retired from being a principal, and he ran for city council. He was elected, and he came back to our school to talk to us. We were in 5th grade. I remember sitting there listening to Mr. Fogelmark talk about what was going to go on in the city of East Peoria. He talked about Town Center 1. He talked about how Kroger was going to come to our community and how great it was going to be, and how important it would be to our community for the tax dollars and just making our city a better place. From then, it again encouraged me to want to be part of our community and someday be on the City Council. Fortunately, I've been able to do that. 12 years ago, I was first elected. And if you ask me what I want to do, is why I want to run this time, it's to continue the service that I've started. I have been a strong advocate for our streets and for our infrastructure, and I want to continue that. I want to continue to argue for, fight for, keeping things like Cleanup Week that are important to the people of East Peoria. 12 years ago, the City Council chose to do away with Cleanup Week. And I made that part of my campaign to get Cleanup Week back for the people of East Peoria. That worked well. The people of East Peoria told me that that's what they want. And since then, I've argued yearly about keeping Cleanup Week a part of our community, something that we do every year. Again, now we have people who would like to see it go away, say that it's expensive. Well, but it is important, and I think things like that, they may be expensive. If they're important to the residents, we've got to continue to keep them going. Finally, we must make sure that our city stays safe, and I want to be a part of that to make sure it does. We want to make sure that our code enforcement has the resources they need. They can work hand in hand with our police department to make sure that houses that are vacant don't become attractive to criminals. The fact is, I have a vested interest in the city of East Peoria, and the reason that I want to stay on the City Council is because I want to make sure that the future of East Peoria is bright. I want to make sure that the progress that we've seen in our community over the last 20 or 30 years continues, and I want to be part of it.
My main purpose for running for City Commissioner is because I love the city of East Peoria. I've lived here my entire life. For the past 17 years, I've served as an elected official on a variety of different boards. I feel that my experiences in both professionally and politically make me qualified to run, and I want to take my experiences and use them to better our community. I also want to run for City Commissioner because I want to improve our services. I want to improve the way of life that we have in East Peoria. I think I have experiences, I think I have knowledge to help with that, and I feel that running for City Commissioner will help me help the city.
My primary purpose in running is to serve the people of East Peoria. I believe my talents and experiences would make me an effective commissioner. I am not running because I have a particular agenda or a particular grievance, but rather a desire to see the city continue to thrive. I believe the commissioner's job is to help set direction and policy for the city while the city employees run the city on a day-to-day basis. I will ask two questions. Why do we do it that way? And is there a better way?
My main purpose for running for City Council is I would like to give back to the community that throughout my childhood up into my adult years has been a wonderful place to live, and I really want to improve our city so my son can have that same good environment that I enjoyed. I am concerned with our $179 million in debt, and I would certainly like to get to where we attack that a little bit and start getting back to where government's providing basic services like good roads.
Question number 3. What do you see as the main issues facing the city of East Peoria?
I feel there are 4 main issues affecting the city of East Peoria over the next 4 years. First of all, our streets. We have to maintain our streets better than we have in the past. For 12 years, I've argued for streets, and there have been some good years where we've put the needed money into our streets. But unfortunately, due to a number of reasons, one being the downturn in the economy, we haven't been able to put the necessary money into road improvements that we should. Fact is, streets become 5% more expensive each year. That's the cost of inflation to streets by not repairing our roads. So it's important that we put as much as we can over the next 4 years to make sure it's not a continuing problem after that. We need to hit our streets hard over the next 4 years, do as much as we can, because there would be no cheaper time to repair our roads than today. It will never get any less expensive. We have some areas that are obvious throughout the community. I'm not going to start to list them because I don't want to leave any out. But every place throughout our community, we have city neighborhood streets that must be maintained better than they have been. Besides that, drainage, water runoff. This is something that most people don't realize because it's not visual. But being able to control the water that comes off the hillsides, as you all know, East Peoria has a lot of hills. It's important for us to be able to control that. Too many people over the last 10 years have lost their backyards or other property because we haven't been able to control the water runoff effectively or the way that we should. We must, over the next 4 years, hit that head on to make sure that we're doing what we need to do. Next is code enforcement. We have very good professionals in code enforcement. We've got to make sure that they have the resources, the manpower necessary to do their job. They go hand in hand with our police department. If our code enforcement works to make sure that we don't have abandoned houses, boarded up houses, those can attract criminals, and it's important that they have the necessary tools to keep those types of things from happening. Finally, safety of our community is one of the most important things affecting our community over the next 4 years. Code enforcement can work with our police department. It's important that our officers are able to stop crime in the beginning stages so it doesn't take over a neighborhood and ultimately take over the community.
I think that the main issue facing the city of East Peoria is dealing with the growth that we've had the past 10 years. Anyone who visits our city can see that what we have gone from to what we are now is completely different. And with growth comes challenges. And those challenges are 1, infrastructure, and 2, keeping up with the financial needs of a growing city. I feel that the next city council is going to have to work with the citizens of East Peoria, is going to have to work with the mayors, is also going to have to work with the department heads to work through the growth that we've seen the past 10 years to ensure that we can continue providing the quality services that we have in the city, as well as update our aging infrastructure.
Like most communities, there are many issues that East Peoria is dealing with at this time. Some of the main ones are the need to repair and replace infrastructure like the roads. Financially, the city budget is tight and lean right now, so we need to continue to look at ways to increase revenues and decrease expenses.
The main issues that I see facing the city of East Peoria is our $179 million in debt, 120 of that being on the new levee district and of course the Bass Pro Shop, 57 being on the wastewater protection plan. I feel that we need to attack those issues, and I think it's going to take a little while for us to get out of this mounting pile of debt, and I hope that I could contribute to that.
Our main issues facing East Peoria are we've neglected our basic services. And everyone that drives around the city will know and can tell real quickly, our roads are in serious deterioration. And that's in part due to insufficient funds being appropriated to maintain our streets. In the last 3 years, 2016, 17, 18, we've provided a bare minimum of funds to maintain our streets. And in that process, it's contributed to a greater deterioration of our streets. So one of the things we have, again, I mentioned it previously, is that because of some of our development, we have a $111 million debt. Those are all contributing to not freeing up funds for our city. We've got to look at workman's comp. We've got to look at pensions. We've got to look at our debt load, and we've got to get back to planning, executing to the plan, and that will contribute to us being able to improve and be in a better foundation for future commercial or future development.
Question number 4. What do you see as the main issue facing the city of East Peoria in the future?
The main issues facing the city of East Peoria in the future are very similar to what the main issues facing the city of East Peoria are right now, and that's dealing with our growth. I think moving forward in the future, we have to look at sustainable growth. I'm not sure that we can continue to grow as fast as we have the past 5 or 10 years and continue to provide the services that we need to. So I think the next city council is going to have to work on a balance of growth along with providing new streets, along with looking at our aging water lines and our aging sewer lines. Another issue I think East Peoria is going to face in the future is the type of government that it has. It's not new that people know that the city council has been debating whether or not the commission form of government is right, whether city manager form of government is right, or maybe alderman form of government is right. The next city council has 4 years to look into that and 4 years to make an educated decision on where the city of East Peoria wants to go with its type of government. So I would say 2 issues facing the city in the future. 1, sustainable growth. 2, analyzing the type of government that we have.
For the near future, say the next 10 years, the finances will continue to be tight as we pay down our pension debt. So we need to continue to attract commercial business and, where possible, residential growth to help create new revenues. The levy district is the latest big idea the city of East Peoria has accomplished. And I would like to work with the other commissioners to come up with the next big idea for the vision of the city.
The main issues that I see facing the city of East Peoria in the future is online shopping, which I think is plaguing every city in the United States, but that's also going to have a big impact on the dollars that we raise in tax revenue, which is going to make it more difficult to get that $179 million debt down. The other issue that is facing East Peoria in the future is our crumbling infrastructure, that if we can't get that fixed in a short amount of time, that's going to have an impact on property values, as nobody's going to be buying houses in a city that has a crumbling infrastructure. So that will, of course, impact the revenues that we gain from people shopping in East Peoria.
Future issues that we face are further commercial and residential development. And as most of us know, we're landlocked by the river on the west, cities on the east, and there are some opportunities in the north and south where we can that are yet to be developed. So we're going to have a comprehensive plan of how we're going to move forward with the development. And in that, we're going to have that part of that plan. We're going to have to consider reuse in order to continue to grow our great city. As well, we're going to have to look holistically at our taxes. Many of our citizens complain about our high taxes. And when you look at it, the city's portion is only one piece, and so there are many other taxing bodies that we need to bring in to this equation, because we're going to have a more difficult time attracting and retaining individuals if East Peoria is known as having very high taxes. Another area that we need to focus, give some attention to that might be a challenge, is we need to begin to diversify our sales tax outside of restaurant and retail. Those are always at risk during an economic downturn, and I think we need to look to the service technologies and new technologies to attract new businesses in and to diversify our tax base.
As I've said before, infrastructure will continue to be an issue East Peoria must face into the future. Infrastructure is something that, as I talk a lot about streets, it's not just about streets. Even though we need to put a lot of money into our streets, that's not the only issue. One of the biggest concerns I see is water runoff, the ability to control stormwater, our water lines, our sewer lines. These are all important, but things that the community can't see as easily, but it can be very expensive. So long term, into the future, this is something that we've got to start over these next 4 years, making a solid plan of how we're going to combat those issues into the future. Besides that, we have some big projects, like our bridges. Our bridges will cost anywhere from $500,000 to $3 million to repair, and we have multiple bridges that are going to be in need of repair into the future. We may not need to repair or replace any of those over the next 4 years, but we must start preparing for the day that we are going to have to replace those bridges. It's not easy to go around if the bridge is out, so we've got to maintain those now so it doesn't become a big problem in the future. Finally, I want to make sure that not only we attract new, but keep the families that we currently have in our community. As I've said before, I plan on living in East Peoria for the rest of my life. I've raised my kids here, and I hope my kids will stay here and raise their families. So I say that because I think one of the most important issues facing the future of East Peoria is retaining those families and bringing more families into our communities. I think our schools have done a good job in trying to improve and make themselves better to compete with the area schools. I think our city needs to continue to do that as well, continue to improve. We need to create an environment for business and try to attract as much business as possible. Unfortunately, we've seen a reduction in some of the higher paying jobs through Caterpillar, but I think there's an opportunity there through the medical community. Our medical community in Central Illinois is growing, and I think East Peoria needs to capitalize on that and try to attract as much of that business as we can to try to bring those people to East Peoria and the families to East Peoria to live in our communities. And finally, amenities. Amenities like sidewalks, amenities like the family activities. East Side, for example. We've got to think of a plan, a long-term plan, to make East Side viable into the future. So not only it can stay, but it can continue to attract people long into the future.
Question number 5. Do you feel the current city services serve the community, and what changes, if any, do you think need to be made?
The city services provided are great. As a commissioner, I would challenge staff to look at ways to continue to improve while we're looking to see if there's a better way to provide those services with a savings to taxpayers. We have talented and dedicated city employees, and I believe they are up to the challenge of providing great service in a cost-effective manner.
I feel that the current city services that this community provides are adequate. I think we have a great core of employees that work for us. We have a wonderful library. Of course, with the levy district, we have a wonderful shopping area. But for the first time that I can remember, we no longer have a pool. And I think that's something that needs to be addressed. I think when the Northern Illinois did a survey, or at least a study of East Peoria, they did make a note that we need to decide what we want to do with the East Side.
Our current service level in our community, I believe, is very sufficient, and our great employees of the City of East Peoria do a wonderful job with the resources that we give them. Part of what's missing is that we're not doing an adequate job of planning to replace equipment, infrastructure, and do a capital expenditure plan where we've got money. Our reserves are at a low point. I believe we need to increase those reserves to 10 to 20% of our revenues. So again, I think the city services are wonderful. One example that we all take granted for is the snow removal. Be one example. You know, we're a city of many hills, and in that process, our snow removal crews do a tremendous job of keeping our roads clean and safe. And so again, I think the services our community gets is just right, but we have to do better to support them.
I feel we have excellent city services. And frankly, we have a bargain for city services. Now, I know our taxes are high. I agree. I'm somebody who wants to bring my taxes down. But the City of East Peoria has done a good job of keeping its portion of taxes as low as it can. When I look at my own tax bill, my taxes for the City of East Peoria is about $500. Now my total tax bill is over $3,000. I live in Shady Knolls. That's important because $500 total gets a lot of service for that amount of money. We have a great Public Works Department, a Public Works Department that most communities around us don't have. Not only do we take care of the roads and we take care of the water lines, sewer lines, plow snow, but we also take care of the garbage. That's really important. Some communities around us, the residents have to pay for garbage separately. And in those cases, they may pay somewhere between $200 and $300 per year for garbage. That's important to recognize because that service alone is valuable to the people of East Peoria. It's something that I think that we need to continue to provide and continue to improve as much as possible. Recycling has been important to me over the last 12 years to try to increase the use of recycling. I think we need to work even harder on that, and here's why. If you throw away trash and it goes to the landfill as trash, that trash costs the City of East Peoria $56 per ton to take care of, to take to the landfill. But if you recycle that trash as much as possible, the recycled material is disposed of at a rate of $7 per ton. That's an enormous difference. We can save a lot of money, and it's important that we try to get as many people in our community as we can to recycle. Some feel that they don't want to recycle or don't believe that it's necessary. If nothing else, it will save the City of East Peoria money. So I think our services in East Peoria are exceptional. We have a great police department. We have a full-time ambulance, full-time fire department. I've already mentioned our public works. Our code enforcement does a great job. But I think if there's one place that we can try to improve, and that should be to try to get more people throughout the community to recycle. I have some ways to try to do that, and I'm hopeful I'm able to work on those in the next 4 years.
When I look at city services, I look at two types of city services. Deliverable services, ones you can see every day, and non-deliverable ones that you cannot see. I feel that our deliverable services are great. Our streets are always clear, our fire and police are top-notch. Our non-deliverables, some of the things that maybe we can't see, our infrastructure, I feel that those services need addressed and those services are going to need to be looked at.
Question number 6. If you're elected, what do you want to accomplish by the end of your term?
If elected, I would like to accomplish, number 1, fixing of our infrastructure. Number 2, attacking our debt. Number 3, let's quit spending money that we don't have. And I'll use the roundabout as an example. I saw a line item in the proposed budget of $86,000 for the 2019-2020 proposed budget. And then I saw in the year 2020-2021 budget, I saw a $1 million line item. I don't believe that budget's been approved yet, but I am concerned as I've been out talking to the citizens of East Peoria. I have not found one person that feels that we need a roundabout down there, and I strongly feel that that money could be used to work on our road system.
If I'm elected, what I'd like to accomplish by the end of my term is to address our road situation tremendously. I would like to get the roads back to where they satisfy or exceed our road goals that have been established in the plan for 20 years. I'd like to reduce the workman's comp 10%. I would like to have a plan in place where on an annual basis we dedicate $2.5 million or more to our roads so that we don't get back to the position of our failing infrastructure. I don't know, reserves, I'd like to address our reserves. 10 to 20%, I believe I mentioned it previously, have a 10 to 20% reserve level, and possibly even more if we have an outlook of larger capital expenditures in which we may be facing here in the short term, where some of our infrastructure has been in place for 50 years and we have very little reserve set aside for any of those types of catastrophic failures. So by the end of our goal, and one other goal would be, I want an engaged city workforce.
If elected, there are many things I want to accomplish over the next 4 years. Some of those, they're obvious. I've talked about them quite a bit. First of all, we need to make an improvement in our streets. We can't just talk about it. We're going to have to put quite a bit more money into our roads. Not just the big projects that everybody knows about, but the neighborhood streets, those that are in our neighborhoods, close to each one of us as we drive home at night. Besides our city streets, we've got to make sure that we control our stormwater. We've got to make sure that we make improvements in our sewer and our water lines. So the future of East Peoria, frankly, is less expensive. If we take care of the problems now, it will be less expensive over time. Over the next 4 years, I want to make a big impact in that, as much as we possibly can. Besides that, we still have some development opportunities. The Levy District isn't full completely. Camp Street isn't full. And we have other areas of the city that we can't just forget about. We can't just focus on the new areas. We've got to look at the older areas and help those business owners develop and grow. We want to make sure that we take advantage of all opportunities in the city. I've mentioned code enforcement today. Over the next 4 years, I want to have a stronger code enforcement. They do a great job, but I don't know if they have the staffing level that they need to. We could probably all point to houses that we feel are abandoned or boarded up or there are things not right about them. Right now, our code enforcement is only able to respond to calls of complaints. It's because they are so taxed, the staffing level. We need to try to build them up and maybe provide more staffing for them. We need to make a plan for East Side over the next 4 years. We need to decide what we want East Side to become in the future. And we want to make sure that people keep coming to East Peoria for their softball tournaments and volleyball tournaments and so on, and we don't lose those to other communities. We have an enormous investment in East Side, and it would be a shame to let that go. People worked very hard to make that place what it is, so we have to make sure that we, over the next 4 years, at least establish a plan to make sure that it's viable for a long period of time. And finally, cleanup week. It's something that has been important to me for 12 years, and over the next 4 years, I want the next council to commit to continuing cleanup week, as we should. It's something that's important to the people of East Peoria, therefore it's important to me as well.
If I'm elected, I'd like to look at 3 different things at the end of my term. The first is the growth of East Peoria. I'd like to see East Peoria grow not only residentially, but commercially. The second thing I'd like to look at are our services. While I think our services are top-notch, you can always improve, and I'd like to look and make sure that our services have not been hindered by our growth. And the final one is our infrastructure. The number one thing I hear when I'm talking to people about this race is the infrastructure of East Peoria and how it needs to be improved. I think when I look at my accomplishments, I'd like to put infrastructure, services, and growth as a priority.
If elected, I would hope our roads and infrastructures are improved at the end of my term. I also would like to see a culture change on the part of the council where all the members understand that they oversee a particular department, but the actual day-to-day operations are the responsibility of the city staff, and the council's job is to set policy and direction.
Now it's time for the candidates' closing comments.
In closing, the city's at a crossroads. We have increasing expenses and decreasing revenues. One example of that is gaming revenues that hit an all-time peak in 2008 and has diminished 40 to 50% since then. We haven't replaced that revenue. We need to focus on administrative and executive functions. We need to look for a win-win-win, a win for the taxpayer, a win for the city, and a win for our partners. One of the things that we need to do in the administrative and executive areas, I can help with. The planning, the budgeting, and the execution and process improvement. That's where my skills and my experience can be used. And so, in order for us to do this, we need to make a change. So, for positive change, I would like you to vote for me, Mark Hill, on April 2nd.
I'd like to thank the residents of East Peoria for the opportunity I've had over the last 12 years. I've really enjoyed being on the City Council. I love going to meetings. I love being a part of it. I love going to Kroger or wherever else I am in the community and seeing people who have questions about things, and people that I didn't know knew me. I enjoy that. I enjoy talking with people. I enjoy the opportunity to serve the people of East Peoria. I'm thankful Eastside Community Television has this forum, so you're able to see the candidates and hear their thoughts. Mostly I'm thankful to my family, who have given me up at times so I could go off and do the work of the community. I really appreciate the sacrifices that they've had to make so I've been able to serve the people of East Peoria. My wife Christy has always been supportive. My kids have always been supportive. And without that, I would not be able to be a successful commissioner. A successful commissioner will have to have a supportive family behind them. Finally, I promise to be dedicated, I promise to work hard, and I promise to be honest. You may not always agree with what I have to say, but I will always be honest with you. I will never lie to you. Again, my name is Dan Decker, and I would appreciate you voting for me on April 2nd. Thank you.
My name is Seth Mingus, and I'm asking for your vote on April 2nd. I feel that I'm a qualified candidate. I feel that my professional experiences as a school administrator, teacher, along with my political experiences with 17 years serving on elected boards, make me a quality candidate for this position. I'm a lifelong resident of East Peoria. I went to the schools in this community. My kids still go to school in this community. I'm invested in it, and I'm asking for your vote on April 2nd.
The city of East Peoria has been the city that can for 30 years. If elected, I will keep that can-do attitude for the city. Though we have many challenges ahead, I believe I can help to create a better East Peoria and hope you will vote for me, Steve Matheny, on April 2nd.
I, Norm Sales, pledge to the citizens of East Peoria that I will work with all of the fellow council members in a very positive and respectful manner. If we have disagreements, I certainly will respect their point of view. I have no hidden agendas. I have no loyalty other than to the citizens of East Peoria. My primary purpose for running will be to improve the quality of life and improve our infrastructure, and I will do that in an open, honest, and transparent manner.
We have come to the close of our candidate forum for the City of East Peoria Commissioner election. I want to thank the candidates for agreeing to participate, and to you, the viewer, for taking the time to learn more about the candidates running to represent you. This forum, along with our mayoral election forum, the candidate forums held by the East Peoria Chamber of Commerce on March 1st, and the Fond du Lac District Library City Forum held on March 13th, will all be available for viewing on Eastside Community Media, Comcast Channel 22, I3 Broadband Channel 12, and on our website and Facebook page. Remember to vote on Election Day, Tuesday, April 2nd. The polls open from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. And if you're unable to vote on Election Day, early voting is available at the Tazewell County Clerk's Office in Pekin or at several temporary locations throughout the county. Call the Tazewell County Elections Division at 309-477-2267 for more information. Remember that every vote counts, and we hope to see you at the polls on Election Day.
This has been a production of East Side Community Media, public, governmental, and educational programming for East Peoria, Illinois, and its surrounding communities.